If you happen to be traveling with small children,
yes,
and you happen to be going to the Newark airport,
yes,
I have a recommendation.
Okay, what's that?
When you're approaching the air train, you dropped off your rental car, and you're approaching the air train to go to the terminal with your two small screaming children.
Sure. Oh, okay. They're screaming
let your
children.
Spouse, presumably they're small.
Okay.
Let your spouse take your children into the air train first.
Okay.
You then bend down to tie your shoe.
For just 1 second. You blink.
Just for 1 second, because you got to tie your shoe. You don't want to get stuck in the door.
No.
The doors close and it whisks your children and your spouse away.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that they can do about it. And now it's just you.
And you did this.
Well, not on purpose, allegedly.
Yeah.
But it did happen to me. The kids got in with my wife. I was following directly behind. The doors closed.
Of course they did.
The look of sheer terror on my son's face was not pleasant.
Aww.
My wife was laughing her ass off.
Sure.
And then they just shot off into the distance. And I was like, well, this is an unexpected, lovely 8 minutes of my life that I can just sit here and enjoy.
Just 8 minutes. You can't lie and say that the next train's 2 hours later.
Yeah, sorry, sweetie. There was some traffic on the air train. I don't really know.
I don't know where I got this Florida sticker on my luggage.
I don't know why I smell like beer. There's no reason for that, really. And I'll get some of that jury duty spearmint rhino perfume on me, too, while we're at it. Go for the trifecta.
Quiet, please.
Yeah, no, so it ended up, I was reunited with him happily at Terminal C, and my son thought it was the funniest and best part of his trip, which I also find amusing.
2.
The Alpha Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense, episode number 47. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Stu Little.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, we'll look at the blackest of blacks, whatever that means.
It's a kind of coffee.
Oh, good. It's National Computer Security Day. Cybersecurity affects everything from where we bank and how we spend our money to who we elect for public office. We certainly don't want a replay of My Doom, the worst email virus in history, which caused $38.5 billion in damages. So let's get educated on staying safe online.
So for those of you keeping score at home, that's like $61 billion in today's money, because that was 20 years ago with My Doom.
That's a lot of loss.
Now, I do recommend on National Computer Security Day, everyone rotate your password from password 123 to password 456.
Okay, always a good idea. It's also Celebrate Shelter Pets Day. The day brings awareness to pets such as dogs and cats that are in shelters. Some think there's something wrong with shelter pets, but they're errant. Most people who've adopted shelter pets will testify shelters are full of great pets that provide delightful companionship. One of my dearest friends fosters kittens for Best Friends LA, an amazing shelter. Those kittens go fast, but shelters are exactly where you want to shop for your next pet.
So, true story. I literally asked my wife last night, because she's generally opposed to all pets. She didn't grow up with pets. She's not a pet fan. I said, what would you like less, a cat or a dog? And she said that it's the same, and that
she dislikes both equally.
Exactly. And I was like, well, okay, what about like a cat or a ferret? And then she was like, the same. And I was like, how about a raccoon?
The same?
She's like, she dislikes them all the same.
She's never been around exotics.
So I was like, well, guess what's going to happen next week? And she replied with, I'm moving out, is what she said.
Yeah, so, exactly.
I want to get one of each for my kids, which I think would be hysterical to have a cat, a dog, a raccoon, and a ferret all living together under one
in
roof.
Harmony, holding hands and singing Kumbaya.
I think ferrets are still illegal in California, which is sad.
Are legal or illegal?
Illegal in the state of California.
Well, partially because you don't want to own a single ferret, and they're not fun to own in groups. But ferrets are extraordinarily social animals.
Yes,
they need lots of ferrets around them.
You do want to own them in groups.
By the way, it's like parrots. I own a parrot. I would never recommend someone gets a parrot.
Yeah,
unless it's a rescue and parrots are extraordinarily social animals. They need to be with other parrots.
Yeah, or ferrets
flying around over large chunks of land, not living in a cage.
Probably a bad idea for the parrot and the ferret to be together.
We have a letter from a listener. Are you ready for this?
We have listeners?
From Dr. Danger, Dave Perigo. Seriously, guys, the commute is so much better with a smattering of nonsense. Looking forward to your OpenAI situation report next week. That story is quickly moving even for AI. Now, we did that last week.
That's true.
Also got some high-speed flight pointers for you when you're back on that topic. P.S. Jeff, please remind CJ to fix that race car. So, all the best from the lowlands, D.
Yeah, good luck, Dave. Get me back on the race car. We'll see. One day I'll have time. What is awesome about this is I'm pretty sure Dave's commute, and I'm not making this up, is on a bike, like a bicycle in the Netherlands. I'm pretty sure he rides his bike to work
How
most
nice
days.
for him.
So I'm kind of surprised we haven't gotten him into some kind of motor accident, because he's listening and, laughing hysterically at our show.
I used to commute on a bicycle.
You did?
I loved it. For health reasons, I was like, this would be great. I'm driving this way anyway. Why not do it on a bike? And I actually rode with a guy. A guy would join me on the trip.
Yeah.
A mile or so into it, he basically went similar locations I did till the very end. He smoked, and he had a cigarette holder on his bike. I've never seen a bicyclist who smokes like this.
Sure.
One day I asked him, what's the deal? You smoke on your bike, but you do this for health? That seems incongruous. And he said, oh, no, I lost my license. I got my third DUI. I'm not here for health reasons. I have no car.
Wow. Good times. Nobody bikes in LA.
Nobody bikes voluntarily in LA.
Well, except for you, apparently.
Well, I enjoyed it. I loved it.
Do you think it's okay for us to read our viewer mail on the air? Is that acceptable?
I think it's fine, provided it's mail they sent to us. I think if we just break into their email accounts and read their email on the air, that's going to be a problem.
Well, yeah, then that makes us the NSA, I think. That's how that works. No, thank you for the letter, Dave. We don't read all of our listener mail, but we will read yours if they're cute and funny.
How's your week going?
So far, so good. As you know, I'm back from New York. I took the children to see the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
So cool.
It was not warm. It was cold, but
sure.
There was rain in the forecast. The rain did not show up. It was blue skies. It was beautiful. We had a blast. The kids had a blast. This is kind of, I dug into the history of this because I thought I was just fascinated by it. So this parade's been around since like the 20s, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
And they introduced the balloons to replace live animals. So apparently they had live animals in these things before.
Okay.
I did see a number of ripped balloons, yet no one was injured. So I was like, okay, how does that work? And I dug in deeper and watched a bunch of videos on this, and it's fantastic. I'll tell you more about it at the end of the show. But we had a great time, and it was a lot of fun. The kids enjoyed it, and we didn't lose any children.
And you didn't have rain. Did you have contingency plans for rain?
Yes, don't go.
You were just going to stay in the hotel.
We did not stay in a hotel. I think the way to do the parade, by the way, is you get a hotel on the route, and then you just enjoy your latte as they come by.
Sure. No,
we did not do that.
And the hotel provided robe as you've just steamed yourself.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. Which, by the way, I think part of my probation precludes me from being in public in a robe.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
You're on that list,
but I haven't read it. No, we actually stayed not at a hotel. We stayed at a listener's house for the weekend, which was lovely.
How nice for you.
This show has its perks. Yeah. How was yours?
My week was lovely, except for the passing of Charlie Munger Tuesday at 99 years old, 5 weeks shy of his 100th birthday.
Yeah, this is sad.
Those of us who consider ourselves value investors, Charlie would say, what other kind is there, owe an enormous debt to Charlie Munger. He brought a clear thinking logic to the discipline that had not existed before. The brilliant Ben Graham, Warren Buffett's teacher at Columbia, said, you should never hold more than 2% of your assets in a single investment in case something happened to it. Charlie, whose mind bent toward concentration, was comfortable putting nearly all of his assets into a single investment if conditions were right. Why wouldn't you want more of your very best idea and skip your 50th best idea entirely? Charlie showed us how to avoid businesses simply because they were selling cheaply and to focus on good businesses that could be held with a happy result for decades. He brought a multidisciplinary approach to investing and the world. For example, the women's rooms are far larger than the men's rooms at the Munger Science Building at Harvard Westlake because the lines at women's rooms are usually far longer than the men's. So smart. He had a line he was partial to over the last couple of years. He'd say, what I wouldn't give to be 90 again.
So funny.
Charlie Munger, 99. You won't hear this said about a lot of 99-year-olds, but it was too soon.
Do you think when he donated the money to put his name on the science building, do you think he mandated that the women's rooms were larger? Do you think he was like, look, I'll write the check, but you got to make the women's rooms larger?
Oh, no. He was intimately involved in the design.
Was he really?
Of it, and the women's room being larger was a thing. It was like, women's rooms always have longer lines. Why don't we just have bigger women's rooms? It made total sense.
I certainly have regret having never gotten the opportunity to meet him before he died. Yeah. I did just listen to the podcast The Acquired Guys put out where they interviewed Charlie like this year.
His first and last podcast.
I think it was his first and last podcast, and he was excellent. Like,
so smart.
He's 99, and he's extremely efficient with the words he puts out. He doesn't bother with a word unless it has value. So it's just like this. You just downloading his brain. It was really good, and I'm disappointed he didn't make 100.
Let's get to our headlines. Robert De Niro accuses Apple of censoring awards speech. Robert De Niro slammed Apple and the Gotham Film and Media Institute this week after claiming his speech for the Gotham Awards had been censored, allegedly by an Apple employee just minutes before the show started, to remove criticisms about Donald Trump and the entertainment industry. At first, De Niro said there was a mistake on the teleprompter before realizing entire sections of his speech had been removed. So instead, I love this, De Niro pulled out his phone and read the original speech.
Amazing.
I just want to say one thing. The beginning of my speech was edited, cut out, and I didn't know about it, and I want to read it, De Niro said before launching into the missing sections of the speech.
What are you thinking fucking with Robert De Niro?
Exactly.
You think he gives zero fucks about what you put in the teleprompter?
This is not someone who cares what you think.
0.0 shits are given about your opinion of him. He's going to do what he wants to do.
Can I read the paragraphs that he wanted to include?
Yes, of course, please.
History isn't history anymore. Truth is not truth. Even facts are being replaced by alternative facts and driven by conspiracy theories and ugliness. In Florida, young students are taught that slaves develop skills which can be applied for their personal benefit. The entertainment industry isn't immune to this festering disease. The Duke John Wayne famously said of Native Americans, I don't feel we did wrong in taking this great country away from them. There were great numbers of people who needed new land, and the Indians were so selfishly trying to keep it for themselves. Lying has become just another tool in the charlatan's arsenal. The former president lied to us more than 30,000 times during his 4 years in office, and he's keeping up that pace in his current campaign of retribution. But with all his lies, he can't hide his soul. He attacks the weak, destroys the gifts of nature, and shows disrespect, for example, by using Pocahontas as a slur. At the conclusion of the speech, De Niro said that he had planned to thank Apple and the Gotham Film and Media Institute prior to seeing the edited speech on the teleprompter. Quote, "But I don't feel like thanking them at all for what they did," said De Niro. How dare they do that, actually? De Niro's accusations of censorship come just weeks after reports that Jon Stewart's show on Apple TV Plus, The Problem with Jon Stewart, was ended due to creative differences related to topics on China and artificial intelligence.
Yeah, this wasn't very fun, but I'm glad that De Niro did what he did.
He made it interesting, yeah.
He definitely made it interesting. Made it topical, that's for damn sure.
Wow, who wants to poke Robert De Niro?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Look, unless you're Al Pacino, you don't get a pass to poke De Niro, right?
Don't change the script in the teleprompter right before Robert De Niro is supposedly going to read it. He has the script on his phone in his pocket.
That had to be a pretty high up thing to be like, we shouldn't believe half of his speech.
What they're saying is that it was, some confusion. They thought Robert De Niro had approved this version of his, which is completely untrue. And he's not going to settle for that. He's not going to believe that for 1 second. He's like, no, this is my speech as I wrote it. Nvidia CEO thinks AGI will be here in the next 10 years. Jensen Huang on stage at DealBook yesterday talked about how soon we might see artificial general intelligence, or AGI. But without a clear definition, it's a hard question to answer. One definition is that AI software being able to complete basic intelligence tests with results competitive to a normal human. Under that definition, Huang says AGI could come within the next 5 years. Is that something we want? Is that desirable? Who wants something that just is competitive with a normal human? Why is that positive?
Okay.
I want something that's error-free.
You got to start somewhere. I don't think a bunch of people were like, hey, Henry, your Model T only does 3 miles an hour. That's fucking stupid. I want to go 100 miles an hour. But this does remind me of one of my favorite George Carlin jokes where he says, imagine the person of average intelligence and now realize that half the people are dumber than that person.
Oh, sure.
Like we are certainly, like, I don't want to solve the left half of the bell curve. Let's go ahead and get these AGIs to work on the right half of the bell curve.
Absolutely.
And preferably even smarter than the rest of us. That would be lovely.
90% of drivers in a no longer recent poll believe that they were above average drivers.
Of course. I think 90% of people think they're above average intelligence.
The mystery of the disappearing Google Drive files. Google Drive users are reporting files mysteriously disappearing from the service, with some netizens on their support forums claiming 6 or more months of work have unceremoniously vanished. Would it have been better had there been a ceremony?
I think, that's the problem. Had there been a ceremony, they're like, all right, look, Tom, the shit you were doing in May wasn't great, so we're going to just wipe it, okay? You can blame it on us.
But let's play a song and someone give a speech.
We'll play your national anthem.
That'll make it okay, right?
While we delete it, we'll play the Netherlands national anthem so that Tom can be like, oh, okay, I feel like I won this.
The issue is pretty alarming. Obviously, one user on Google's support forum said that an expense spreadsheet they regularly updated has lost all data from nearly the last 5 years, with the version history showing the latest version is January 2019. I'm really mad as this had all the important data which I do not have a local copy for. I need this data retrieved at any cost.
So first of all,
I wouldn't say that to Google.
You want to be careful with someone that operates typically with 3 commas because they will send you a bill.
Anyone who understands the word Google knows how to bill big.
Yeah, like, so this is a 1 followed by 24 zeros. That's your bill for getting this data back.
Also, you didn't really want this data if you didn't back it up.
Yeah, I mean,
you were okay not having this data.
This is the difference between storage and archive, right? And why backup is so important. And unfortunately, I just think most of that is lost. Folks are just happy to be like, it's in the cloud, it's fine. It's like,
no, it's not. No, it's not.
It's really not.
Another poster said the drive reverted to May 2023 with all subsequent data disappearing and other reported similar issues. A message purporting to be from Google support advised not to make any changes to the root data folder while engineers investigate the issue. Some users speculated that it might be related to accounts being spontaneously dropped.
I also love when there's a support engineer that's like, don't touch anything.
Right.
I mean, that's exactly what I would do.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you don't want to screw it up. You don't know how hard it'd be to unroll. These guys did, I'll put a link in the notes. There is a workaround for this, but it is like a super scary hack. It's like basically pulling your local copy and then blasting over what's there. Man, I would say pull your local copy and hold it, but I would not blast over what's there because that you might just be making it much worse for yourself.
If you have important data on the cloud, don't waste one more second of your life.
Nope.
Go make a backup of it.
Yep,
a
print it all
local
out.
backup that you keep and you keep someplace safely.
Print it all out and put it underneath your bed.
By all means, print it out.
I own a lot of stock in ink companies.
Do you?
This is not an easy task for most people, especially when you think about the wake of data that people leave behind them.
Oh, yeah.
You get into pictures and video.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Trust me, I have it. I have a system for archiving it, and it's not simple.
Well, yeah, but you use a bunch of these random esoteric edge case devices. The average, you're like second, third standard deviation to the right when it comes to technical expertise.
Oh, no, I'm like ninth standard deviation to the right.
I'm sorry. How dare I? Third standard
I don't know
deviation.
what you're...
You're 0.0001 1%.
Please.
Yeah. Yeah. I that's right. I forget. Sometimes the show gets interrupted because Linus calls you and asks you for tips.
Sure.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Linus like, fuck, I gotta call Jeff, see how he's storing his shit. No, the average person, unfortunately, is not prepared for this. The average person, at best, will click on Apple storage, or Google One storage, and then that's it. And they are entrusting them to hold all of their backups.
And you see the name Apple there, and you see the name Google there.
It must be good.
You believe that it's permanent storage, and it's just not.
Yeah. I feel like there's an opportunity here, since the NSA already has all of this data.
Sure.
Why don't they just charge you a fee? They're already storing it.
I agree. I've seen the facility in Bluffdale, Utah. I get it. They have all the data.
What if this is shit in front of Congress? We're just going to raise your effective tax rate by 1%, and then you can have all your data back whenever you want.
Well, just whatever. You're already keeping it. Why can't I use you as a backup? So why can't we just eliminate the facade that you don't have my data?
They can raise the tax rate by 1%. Think about the windfall of money.
They don't even need to do that. I mean, we're already paying for it. You're already paying for it. Why should you pay more for it? Elon Musk has boosted the Pizzagate conspiracy theory
there it is.
5 times in the last 2 weeks. Elon Musk continued to boost a debunked conspiracy theory Tuesday, posting and later deleting a meme on X that referred to a fringe far-right claim that sought to connect members of the Democratic Party with child abuse. Musk wrote, quote, "does seem at least a little suspicious," unquote, alongside a meme drawing from the TV show The Office, which included fake dialogue superimposed on images of a character arguing that, quote, "Pizzagate is real," unquote, a reference to a conspiracy theory that gained traction in 2016 that culminated with a North Carolina man's opening fire in a Washington, D.C. pizza restaurant.
So the part of this story, though, that I just really just brings the whole thing full circle to me is that hours before this meme was posted, Musk wrote on Twitter, X, whatever the fuck he's calling it, that, quote, "the public will increasingly come to realize that X is the best source of truth, causing our user numbers to rise as they abandon the less accurate sources of information."
Sure.
It's like, if I put this into a fucking script, you wouldn't believe it. And this is real world.
Exactly.
It's like, no, everything here is true. Meanwhile, he's pushing Pizzagate rumors.
What's the over-under on Linda staying around?
We already did a show on femtoseconds. I don't think we need to calculate that again. I don't know. I mean, it might be longer than you think, because I feel like
because she's getting a payout for staying.
Well, not she's just
financially. She's going to retire after this, right?
Dude, she ain't leaving. I think the only way she's leaving is she's pushed out. So what's the over-under on when she pulls the ripcord? I would say when the money's gone.
Yeah.
Right. So like, but when is she pushed out? The answer might be never, because I'm not sure you need anybody else to do this job.
When she powers down the final server. Then she'll go home, right? Because she'll retire at that point. She's got to make enough money.
What a great visual! Like, she actually drives down to the DC. There's just one shitty tower, some Dell from 2006 still running. She's like, "All right, here we go," and then just like unceremoniously powers it down, and you're like, "That's it." And the bird finally dies. Yeah, no, that's a great image. I don't think that's going to happen.
Apple and Goldman Sachs are breaking up over money-losing Apple Card. Apple has repeatedly trumpeted the success of its financial services, a product lineup that now encompasses the Apple credit card, high-interest savings account, and buy now, pay later service called Apple Pay Later. Are you familiar with Apple Pay Later?
No, but I'm pretty sure it does what it says on the tin.
But even if these products have proven reasonably popular with customers, they haven't been working out for the bank that Apple has partnered with to supply those services. Goldman Sachs Consumer Services have been losing the company billions of dollars, according to reporting from Bloomberg, CNBC, and the New York Times, among others. These losses have been driven in part by a much higher than usual loss rate on its credit loans, meaning people with Goldman-backed credit cards like the Apple Card are actually making their payments less often than people with credit cards from other banks. The Wall Street Journal reports that Apple has sent Goldman Sachs a proposal that will end their partnership within the next 12 to 15 months, leaving Apple to find a new backer for its financial products. Although initiated by Apple, Goldman Sachs has allegedly been interested in ending its partnership with Apple for a while now. Financial losses seem like the biggest point of contention between the companies, but the Wall Street Journal also reports that Apple has frustrated Goldman Sachs execs by demanding that most people who apply for an Apple Card get approved, and that all Apple Card customers receive their bills, this is crazy, receive their bills on the same day. Banks typically try to spread those bills out to avoid a deluge of customer service calls.
Yeah, that last one seems interesting to me, where they're just
holy
like,
cow.
Nope, it's all got to be on the same day. Why isn't Apple backing this? Is that a regulatory issue? Or
yeah, they're not a bank.
Well, why don't they just become a fucking bank? They have all of the goddamn money.
It's harder than you think.
Don't you just check a
Goldman
box?
only became a bank in the 2007 financial crisis.
Yeah, well, right, because there was nobody else holding the bag, and they're like, well, we'll hold the bag for you. We're just going to fill it with our own gold.
Well, no, that's not.
No?
I like that idea. No, they were going to go bankrupt probably. They were in trouble.
Goldman?
Yeah, and the treasurer basically, said, let's make you a bank and then we can rescue you.
Why didn't they make me a bank?
Right?
The little bank.
Because you weren't too big to fail.
There are very few companies that can shadow over Goldman Sachs, right? In most of those meetings, the Goldman Sachs executives are going to be the ones calling the shots.
Generally, it's a very smart group. I'm actually friends with Goldman Sachs, several Goldman Sachs executives, and they're some of the smartest people I know.
Oh, of course. No, I'm not saying they're not smart at all. I'm just saying, typically speaking, they're going to be the ones holding the cards.
Yeah.
I'm guessing not so much here.
No.
Right? Like there's just a giant pit of money.
Apple dwarfs them, yes.
Yeah.
But they do have the ability to transact business as a bank, and Apple does not. So Apple's going to have to find a partner who wants to get into this business with them. And if execs are forcing them to, approve more cards than they would feel comfortable
Is
with.
this 12 to 15 month plan just Apple buying Goldman? Is this just Tim writes a number down on a piece of paper, just slides it over on the table, and he's just like, look,
That's much harder to do than you would think.
your choice is you either sell to me or I take it. What do you want?
If you sell to me, then you become a bank and you get all the regulatory scrutiny of a bank.
Well, that sounds like fun.
If you own whatever it is, over 20% of a bank, I don't know what the number is, I've forgotten. Literally, you don't want to own a bank unless you actually are a bank, unless you're a bank holding company.
I am not either of those things.
Okay, now for the headlines. Up next, CJ is going to talk about the most non-reflective paint ever made.
What is the darkest paint you can imagine?
Black.
Turns out there's a blacker black. This time, I'd like to talk about the blackest black ever.
I'm game. What is that? Just
Any ideas?
I've just read the handoff, which said it was the most non-reflective surface.
Yes. So you're close.
Yeah.
Conventional black paint absorbs about 97.5% of light at a normal incidence angle. To me, that sounds like all of the light.
That's an awful lot of the light. Yeah.
Basically, 2.5% of the light gets reflected
All but
back.
2.5%.
Yeah, the rest of it gets absorbed. Now, you'll hear about this stuff called super black. Super black is a surface treatment developed at the National Physical Laboratory in the United Kingdom. I think this was around 2007 or so. It absorbs 99.6% of visible light at normal incidence, right? Which
That's cool.
may not sound like a big difference, but that means it absorbs 84% of the light reflected by ordinary black paint.
Sure.
Which is a lot, right?
Really, really, really black.
Yes, it's super black.
As an application,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. As an application is like for the James Webb Telescope, where you need black.
So funny you bring up James Webb. James Webb, you actually don't need it. And to my knowledge, there is no black, no super black or Vanta black on the James Webb Space Telescope.
Because it's looking at heat.
Well, it's looking at infrared, where if you were trying to collect and you had noise, you would want this. But remember, it's behind a giant heat shield.
Yeah.
So its main source of infrared is already shielded, right? So now the only thing you're worried about, I believe, is the instrument itself emitting infrared. The way they solve that problem on the web is they cooled it down to some unbelievably low, like I think it's like 3 Kelvin or 4 Kelvin, so there would be minimal infrared emitted from it. So you really have no purpose for one of these super blacks on something like the James Webb. Now, other telescopes, yes, if you want to...
That are optical in nature.
Exactly. Well, I'm ahead of myself here, but some of these work across spectrum. Some of these blacks work in infrared and in ultraviolet as well.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, not just visible
Okay, I'm
light.
so sorry to interrupt. Back to you.
Okay, so back on super black is the one that you'll come across sometimes. It's not the most popular one, but I had said it's 99.6% of visible light at normal incidence. But if you're at an angle, it's even more. It's like 99.9%.
Okay.
So basically, this stuff is super black, hence the name.
Yeah.
Now, the one that you'll hear about more often, the one I want to talk about today, is called Vanta black, and this was developed.
Vanta black.
Vanta black.
Is that related to Vanna White?
It's a distant cousin of Vanna White.
Okay, good.
And it was developed by Surrey Nanosystems around 2014 is when this was unveiled.
Okay.
Vanta black is part of what's called the class of these super black coatings. It has a total hemispherical reflectance, what's called THR, below 1% in the visible spectrum. So that's sort
Tell
of
me
this
what
class.
total hemispherical reflectance is.
Basically, how much light bounces off a surface in all angles, in all directions.
Okay.
So when you're perpendicular to the material, 99.965% of visible light is absorbed. So it absorbs damn near all the light.
Yeah.
And that means that Vanta black is absorbing 98.6% of the light reflected by ordinary black paint and 91% of the light reflected by super black.
Very impressive.
So if you think about black being black and then super black being the black of the black, because it absorbs another 90%, basically 86%. Vanta black is the next step of that. It's absorbing almost 90% of what super black reflects.
And we're able to get less reflectance just because technology improves over time, and so we're able to do different things.
So check this out. This is pretty cool. This is not the part of the story that I think is most interesting, but it is pretty neat. I think you're going to enjoy this. The name Vanta black is a combination of the acronym Vanta, V-A-N-T-A, which stands for Vertically Aligned Nanotube Arrays.
Oh, cool.
And then obviously the shade black. So what you're seeing in Vanta black and the sort of OG Vanta black uses this process called CVD, which is chemical vapor deposition.
Okay.
And it's a process that they use to make sort of lay down, if you will, these nanotubes. So you end up with
These are single layer nanotubes. How do they? Tell me. They're carbon nanotubes, I would assume.
Yep, they're
are
carbon
they single
nanotubes.
or multiple layers of
Yeah,
atoms?
they grow them on the substrate using this modified chemical vapor deposition process. And I don't believe that it's single layer. I think it's multiple layers. I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
And then what happens, of course, is when the light strikes the Vantablack, instead of it bouncing off, it becomes trapped and continually deflected among the tubes, ultimately absorbed and dissipated as heat.
Okay.
So what this is actually doing, right? Like if you paint something black, it gets hot, right? Most of the energy, light energy.
Sure.
This is just doing this on a much higher scale, right? 2-3 orders of magnitude more. And these coatings are unique in that they're super black, retaining uniform light absorption from almost all viewing angles. And that's what's really interesting about this stuff. I'm going to put some links in the notes for the show. When you look at stuff that's pointed in Vantablack, you cannot discern any texture, any protrusion.
Because you get no reflection, you get nothing back.
You get no light comes back.
Yeah.
So there's this video of like a bust, like a bronze bust, 2 identical bronze busts. One's painted with one of these super black materials, and you can't see like the nose or the eyes. It just looks like a hole. It just looks like a hole in space. What it looks like to me is somebody went into MS Paint and just painted it black, because that's what it is. There's literally no light in it, right? It's just fucking empty.
Sure.
Anyway, back to CVD Vantablack. So I want to tell a bit of the story. This was an improvement over similar substances that were developed at the time. So it can be created in only 400 degrees Celsius.
Okay, that's hot.
NASA had previously developed a substance. Yeah, well, check this out. NASA had previously developed a substance that needed to be grown at 750 degrees Celsius. That's like 1400
Which
degrees
is hotter.
Fahrenheit, which is hotter. And that means that
I think that's about the temperature my oven cleans itself.
yeah, probably about that. Now that means that those materials had to be more heat resistant than Vantablack. For example, I know through personal experience, aluminum melts at that temperature. So you're not going to be using those previous processes on aluminum. This original CVD Vantablack, I don't even think they manufacture anymore, because it's been superseded by sprays. So they figured out how to get sprays. Yeah, basically like spray paint almost.
Yeah.
That offer similar optical performance in these parts of the spectrum. So you can get Vantablack, you can get now in 2 sprayable paints with randomly oriented nanotubes. So you're getting these nanotubes are getting deposited in random orientations so that they'll absorb all the light.
Essentially, it's like microfelt.
Yeah, kind of like microfelt. Yeah, that's a good reference.
Yeah.
There's one called Vantablack VIS, which is for the visible spectrum. And they have one called Vantablack SIR, which is for the infrared spectrum. So if you want infrared absorption, you can do that.
Yeah, sure.
Now, these paints require a special license. You need a temperature from like 100 to 280 degrees Celsius, and then vacuum post-processing. I think the vacuum post-processing is to get the substrate out. So like you basically put on these nanotubes at the substrate. The heat and the vacuum is what pulls the substrate off and leaves the nanotubes present.
That's a lot of work just to get black.
Just to get black, yeah. And they market a line of also these other sprayable paints called Vantablack VBX that are even easier to apply. So they've expanded the product line.
And I can get these at my local Home Depot?
No. And this is part of the story that I want to tell. So even as of 2022, these Vantablack coatings are still super expensive, right? These aren't cheap. They are not supplied to private individuals. So you cannot buy Vantablack, at least as of last year, and I doubt that's changed. They will only provide samples for applications that Surrey Nanosystems, the owner, deem quote unquote valid. So they have this like stranglehold on Vantablack, where they don't want to just use this for whatever. Now, as one of the darkest materials, Vantablack has all sorts of applications.
They don't have like a trademark or a copyright on the actual color of that black.
Well,
what it is they have the process to make
they have
black.
A process, yeah. And as it turns out, they have a lot less protection.
You couldn't
than
copyright a wavelength.
Yeah. You can't. I mean, copyright wouldn't be the right thing. It would be like a patent on the process,
right? But you still couldn't.
And you've seen, there have been examples of enforceable rights for like Tiffany blue, but all of those have been knocked off, right? Because again, how do you fixate
it's just a wavelength.
Right? So as one of the darkest materials, Vantablack has all these sort of potential applications. You mentioned telescopes, so preventing stray light from entering telescopes, or improving performance on infrared cameras, right, on Earth or in space. Mm-hmm. Surfaces that are coated with Vantablack are highly suitable for emitting and absorbing black body radiation. They're pretty durable, so it enables them to perform well in diverse temperature ranges and environments, such as in vacuum and in air applications. You think about them in optical configurations where they can enhance the overall performance. Like that's sort of commercially where they make the most sense.
Yeah.
Now, it has these distinctive characteristics that make it desirable material for cinema projectors, lenses, luxury products, and design items. this. So, and it, like your light absorbing properties help it for solar panels and cells because you can get more of the energy into the material, if you will.
If your paint is darker, you can get more energy from the sun. You can increase your efficiency.
Now, darker materials are possible. In 2019, MIT engineers developed a CVD material which reflects 1/10 of the amount of light that Vanta Black reflects, right? So they've gone another order of magnitude up, which is bonkers. But that's not the part that I wanted to talk about this week. This week, I wanted to tell the story of some of the controversy around Vanta Black. And this is interesting. And I don't think you know anything about it because I'm assuming you would have already hinted to it if you did. And this arose when...
I didn't know there was such a thing called Vanta Black.
Yeah, exactly.
9 minutes ago.
Which is kind of crazy because this is a pretty nerdy thing. And I feel like most of my nerdy friends that listen to this show already know the story or we've already talked about it. I'm super into photography. We use a product called Duvetine, which is this microfelt. You can literally buy it off Amazon and it sucks up light to the point where the camera can't see. Wait till we get you Vanta Black. Yeah. So the controversy arose when Surrey Nanosystems, the folks that have made and own Vanta Black, they granted Anish Kapoor, who's a British Indian artist, exclusive rights to use Vanta Black in artistic applications.
Okay.
Many artists were pissed about this, right? They voiced opposition.
Well, sure. Why wouldn't they be able to use it?
Exactly.
I get it.
They're like, why should you have a monopoly on this substance? And they expressed their discontent with the idea that exclusivity over a material or tone should be granted to any one artist. Like, it shouldn't even be allowed, not just to this guy. Like, it wasn't about the guy. Right. It was the fact that nobody should have this. At the time, the painter...
In applications of artwork, it seems like completely a marketing thing.
Totally.
Because you're not going to be able to really see the difference between this and, black from a paint tube.
Well, no.
Really?
That's the thing. It really is. Like, if you look at that black, that's why I put those percentages up earlier.
Yeah.
If you look at something that's painted black and something that's painted with Vanta Black, from like a design aesthetic perspective and an artistic perspective, they are two very different things.
Yeah.
One looks like a hole.
Human eyes are good enough that you can detect the difference.
Oh, dude. Not only detect the difference, it's eerie. It looks broken. It looks like a hole that's been painted like on an Acme cartoon. Like, you know how it's like such a fake like 2D representation? That's what it looks like because there's no light in it. So it's kind of a big deal. And the painter Christian Furr said at the time, I quote, "I have never heard of an artist monopolizing material. All the best artists have had a thing for pure black. Turner, Monet, Goya. This black is like dynamite in the art world. We should be able to use it. It isn't right that it belongs to one man."
Well, it's their process. They can assign it to whoever they want.
Oh, I get they can do it to whoever they want. Yeah. I'm not saying that this is like a legal argument. It's more of an argument of like giving everybody the creativity. So here's where the story gets really fun. And this is the part I think you're going to like. In response to this, Nanolab, which is a Massachusetts-based carbon nanotube manufacturer, they partnered with Boston artist Jason Chase to release a nanotube-based black paint called Singularity Black. And during the first showing of the color, Chase, the artist behind this, was sort of alluding to Vanta Black, and he stated, quote, "Its possibilities have been stunted by not being available to experiment with. And Singularity Black's release was important to create that access," right? Because nobody can use it. So, okay, that was kind of like...
But is Singularity Black something now all artists can use? Did they release that to the whole world?
Let's keep going. There's more to this story. The answer, by the way, is yes to that, but that's not where the story ends.
That's the end you want to hear.
No. This next part's the story you want to hear. So the more well-known bit of the story, this artist, Stuart Semple. So in response to Kapoor receiving these exclusive rights to use Vanta Black for artistic use, Semple developed a pigment called, quote, the pinkest pink. And he specifically made it available. Listen to this. This is so fucking good. And he specifically made it available.
He's a jokester.
Well, dude, we're only in the first layer of this joke. And he specifically made it available to everyone except Anish Kapoor and anyone affiliated with him. So he's like, all right, fucker, I'm going to put out the pinkest pink and everybody can have it but you. And he later stated...
That's genius. That's awesome.
Oh, dude, this is so good. He later stated the move was itself intended as something like performance art and that he did not anticipate the amount of attention it received, right? So in December 2016, Kapoor obtained the pigment and posted an image on Instagram of his extended middle finger, which had been dipped in Semple's pink, right? Hilarious. So that was sort of his like, hey, fuck you. I mean, of course, he's able to get it. You can't keep him from getting it.
It's just a pink.
So Semple, he's developed more products such as a black 2.0 and a black 3.0, which are supposed to look nearly identical to Vanta Black, but they're acrylic, so they're much easier to paint. He also developed something called...
By the way, you knew that's where it was going to go. Was that other people were going to create new
this is probably my favorite. This is probably my favorite part. Semple also developed this stuff called, quote, diamond dust. And it's an extremely reflective glitter made of crushed glass shards that are designed to hurt, Kapoor if he dipped his finger in it. All of which were released with the same restrictions against Kapoor as the pinkest pink. So I love that he's like extended this
Was it
joke now
Kapoor's actual
4
middle
times.
finger that he dipped into the pink?
Yes.
Oh,
he
it
dipped
was.
Yes.
Okay.
He actually put his finger in the pink, and then on Instagram,
Hilarious.
it's just a picture.
I thought he made
of
like
his,
a model of a hand.
Oh, no. I'll put it in the notes on
hilarious.
this. No, it's his hand with his finger in the pink
That's
and
clever.
him flipping off the camera. So and by the way, when he would post shit like this on Instagram, he would just get annihilated in the comments because
Why?
Because the whole universe is out against this guy, right? Like the universe wants everybody to have this, not one dude to have it. So the 3 supporters he has aren't going to be able to yell louder than the 20,000 people on, Reddit and the 2 million
I am
people
broadly against this sort of exclusivity anyway, but I also know that when it comes to things like the Darkest Black, somebody's going to come up with a darker one in about 2 minutes. And it will just keep improving.
Dude, I don't know. You're at diminished returns now. I mean, you're talking about, reflecting
for sure.
something like 1 or 2/1000% of light.
It's impressive that it's still measurable at that level.
Yeah, exactly. How do you even measure it?
Yeah.
I mean, you can point lasers at this thing and they disappear. Like that's
so cool.
That's so crazy. Anyway, Kapoor has always maintained the same stance when questioned about these actions. And he says, why exclusive? He's like, well, because it's a collaboration. He said, I'm wanting to push them, being nanosystems, for a certain use for it. And he says, I've been collaborating with people who make things out of stainless steel for years, and those are all exclusive. I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah, but stainless steel itself is not
Exactly.
exclusive.
And that's why I'm like,
that's a different thing.
That is not the proper analog because other people can make things out of stainless steel. You've literally taken, it'd be like if he said, I now own stainless steel and nobody else gets it.
Right.
And then a bunch of people will be like, hey, buddy, get fucked, right? So anyway, fortunately now, and this is really the answer to your core question on this, for the rest of the artistic community and just, us, the public at large, there are now several other firms that distribute vertically aligned nanotube arrays, including Nanolab, Santa Barbara Infrared, and others. So you can get it now, and there are Kickstarters you can go on. You can get, you're talking about on the order of hundreds of dollars for a liter of this stuff. So you can get like a sampler, 200 milliliters, something like that, for like $100. It's sort of like the world you're in. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. And these acrylic blacks are still pretty goddamn black. But
sure.
And I've seen some cool designs. Like I think it was Kapoor who first came out with a watch where the back of the watch is in Vanta Black.
So it doesn't exist.
It looks like a hole on your arm with like a hand face on it. Like it's really interesting.
What happens if it's out in the sun? Does that black just get really hot fast?
Well, yeah, but I mean, again, relative to, and this is what's fascinating to me, relative to black paint, you're only talking about a 2% increase.
Sure.
So it's really not getting that much hotter. But that 2% to your eyes is significant.
Sure.
Because
it's everything.
You have never seen anything like this in your life. Nothing in your life.
I haven't. So I want to see this. I need a field trip.
I mean, if you had a hole in the ground that went to the mantle, that would be also pretty fucking dark. But you know what I mean? But you would still see like some bouncing light.
It'd probably be light. You'd probably get, because you are talking about
once
fire.
the mantle people come out, the mantle people with the headlights on, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? No, it's pretty cool. We should definitely find, I'm sure there's some art installation in LA that we can find at MoMA or something that has one of a piece with something like this in it. But even
we have to go find this.
Just seeing pictures online though. I've seen it in person once, and it wasn't like aluminum foil. That's the example they always give, but it was like a crumpled up piece of like metal, and they had They had a circle in the middle that was painted with this shit, and it looked like a hole, even though it was the same crumpling.
That's so cool.
It'll blow your mind because again, it looks like a hole. It doesn't look like anything.
Yeah,
like you can't detect any edges of it or anything. It's pretty fascinating. So anyway. Vanta Black is one everybody knows. I think the story about it before and after is interesting, but I think this controversy and ultimately what Semple did and the diamond dust to me is like the best part of this whole thing.
Sure, of course.
Where he's like, all right, you want to dip your finger in this? Fucking go for it, buddy. Like, you're still not allowed to use it. This stuff's super cool. We will find some. So it sounds like, I'm guessing you're pro super black. That's what I'm hearing.
I am sure. Why not? I love that. That kind of thing makes me very, exactly.
What would you use it on? If I got you
I'd use it on the inside of cameras, of course. I mean, totally. The applications would be enormous.
But don't you kind of like want to just paint like a 4-foot circle in your kid's room? Like that's the first thing I want to do.
I do want to make that Wiley E. Coyote train tunnel.
Totally. Right?
That would be really cool.
Arch. Like, yeah. I feel like it might be worth, even though I can get this acrylic stuff for like $100 for a quart or whatnot. I still want to get that and like just go do some of this shit in my kid's room because I think it'd be excellent.
Oh my gosh. I think your kids would love it.
Wait. Oh my God. I have the answer. Have I pitched you the starboard? I pitched you the starboard, right?
What's the starboard?
My son has a bunk bed in his room.
Oh, on the top of the bunk bed.
On the bottom of the top bunk, I want to make a starboard, and I was going to paint it like a really dark blue. I should paint it black, Vanta black, and then that would be amazing because then you have that super night effect. That's totally what I'm doing. That's how we're going to get 5 million views on TikTok is by using Vanta black. Great. My kid's board project just went from like $70 to $600.
Sure.
Lovely.
Sure. Totally worth it though.
Fucking nanotubes you can run his finger across, and I'm sure those aren't. You thought nanoplastic was bad. Wait till you get nanotubes stuck in your skin. I am so happy that you did not know this story because I was afraid you would already know it. That this makes me happy. It's hard for me to find stories that you don't know. So
that's a pretty great one. All right, we have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Yes. So I was going to see the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which I haven't watched in years, and I wanted to read a little bit about it.
Didn't you used to watch it every year when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, yeah, but it's been years. Like I don't really remember much of it. And I looked at some of the the bloopers and the outtakes. So I was looking at when they inflate. They have to inflate these giant things.
They have outtakes?
Oh my God, they have outtakes. So it's super fucking windy. Outtakes? Oh my God, the outtakes are great. So there's all these incidents that have happened.
It's a live TV show. Is it not a live TV show? How do you have outtakes?
Well, because you've got shit that didn't make the air because it was terrible. And you had
it's live. How do you?
It's a 2-mile course. The whole thing isn't like they just record the session at the end. Shit happens beforehand.
The stuff in front of Macy's.
Yes, but it doesn't start 10 feet before Macy's.
No, of course they aren't taking things out though.
Oh yeah, they are. Oh, they're definitely taking things and things that just don't make it. So basically, it's all around these balloons, and it's super windy, and like the people steering these balloons are not trained. Like they're trained, they're not trained.
They're volunteers. They're like Rose Parade people,
you have these pilots trying to tell them what to do. So you see these pilots that are wearing all white and they have orange gloves and they're making hand motions, and the people carrying the balloons are
it's like
not
curling.
watching.
They're yelling sweep, 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 sweep.
You're not far from it. They're blowing a whistle and they're pointing different directions, and the people holding the balloons are smiling and waving at the crowd and enjoying their walk,
not paying attention,
not doing a fucking thing. Meanwhile, you've got a 7-story tall balloon that you're in charge of, and they're
with helium in it, right?
With helium in it, hydrogen. Sorry, it was the cheap version.
Oh, it is. It's hydrogen.
Yeah, no smoking. No, it's fucking helium. They're not that crazy.
That's what I said. It's helium.
I know.
I originally said it's helium.
My story. Get your own stories. Anyway, so check this out. So one of them comes by and it's like ripped, and I was like, I wonder how many of these like get ripped.
You saw a ripped balloon.
I saw 2 or 3 ripped balloons.
Oh wow!
Just this year. Yeah.
That's common then.
Yeah. Well, check this out. So I go look at outtakes, how we started this whole story, and I find the one from 1997. I didn't know this was a thing until, a week ago. 1997, remember Barney, the purple dinosaur?
Yeah, sure, of course.
It was super windy. Barney got a little rambunctious. They lost control of him, and they didn't know what to do, so they pulled him down, and the NYPD stabbed and stomped him to death. And there's video of it, and
that's cool. That's
fantastic. It's fantastic.
Now, this is not the one that rams into the light post, right?
No, there were some, and so one of those was really gnarly. Well, I think it was the Cat in the Hat hit a light post, knocked off a 4-foot chunk, hit a woman in the head. I thought it was
Barney. The thing just poked into it and just ripped.
Barney did get ripped, I think, on a light post, but didn't break off a chunk of the light post. I think it was the Cat in the Hat.
Broke off a chunk of the light post. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it fell and hit a woman. She was in a coma for like 30 days. Like, it was terrible.
Oh my gosh.
And she ended up suing the city for $400 million, and they settled for, I'm assuming, a number much less than that, but still terrible. So they put in all these new ordinances and whatnot. A little piece of trivia for you. There is now, since all this has happened, there is a NYPD police officer that is installed with every balloon, and that officer has the authority to basically kill the balloon, to pull it off circuit or shut it down. Shoot it down, which I think is kind of awesome, where they're just like, nope, sorry, Bluey.
A bullet hole would probably not be a big enough leak to do anything.
Well, no, you would just have to do a lot of it. And trust me, I'm sure the NYPD would be happy to unload all of their clips into the fucking balloon just to, say they got it down. But man, I will put in the link to this show, the video of them just going ape shit on Barney. And it's, if you grew up hearing that song, it's kind of nice to see.
Is he singing I Love You as the cops are shooting him down and stomping on him?
You. And he's just deflating. We should take it and we should score it to that as Barney's getting drowned. Anyway, that's what I saw that I love the most. How about you?
I saw Next Goal Wins. Have you seen Jojo Rabbit?
I have not. I do not know this.
Oh, so good. It is from Taika Waititi, which I hope I'm saying right.
Yeah.
He's made another. See Jojo Rabbit. It's fantastic. It's so good. He has made another film. This is based on the 2014 documentary of the same name about Dutch-American coach Thomas Rogen's efforts to lead the American American Samoa national football team. Do you remember this team?
No, not at all.
2001 FIFA match. They lost. It is the record lost game, 31-0.
Holy shit.
Yeah. The worst we would call soccer match in the history of FIFA
Now,
soccer.
I am not a soccer fan.
Yes, I know where
however,
you're going.
my understanding is every time the little black and white ball goes into the goal, you get 1 point. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay, so
And
that
they
happened
got
31 times.
31 goals.
And wait,
that's almost a basketball game. That's like a college basketball game.
It's a 90-minute game, right? The match is 90 minutes?
90 minutes plus or minus whatever the ref wants
However
to
they
tag
feel,
onto the
depending where the
end.
moon is. So that means that
pretty
they were
much.
scoring a fucking goal every 3 minutes?
It's a college basketball game. Isn't that crazy?
It's a college basketball game.
Anyway, this
How do
guy
you even
goes
run
to-
from one end of the field to the other in 3 minutes?
This guy goes to coach them, and it's the movie is based on not only is it based on a documentary, it's based on a completely true story. This guy goes to coach them and gets it because they don't want to lose a game.
Sure.
They would like to at least win one. The whole goal of the movie is we just want to get one goal.
Okay.
We just want to be able to score one goal.
So he came in there. Let me guess.
I'm not going to give away the
Okay.
ending, but oh my gosh, is it great? It's so great. Michael Fassbender is an amazing actor, and the film is absolutely charming.
Did they just play like the School for the Blind and Deaf?
No, they have to play, of course, a FIFA team. They have to
Wow.
play real teams.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
it's from this tiny
this is kinda
American
like
Samoa. It's
the,
this tiny island with this small number of people, and they actually need to score a goal in this game.
This is like the what was the bobsled story from the 90s?
Yeah.
The Jamaican bobsled team?
Sure.
Similar-ish? Was it?
Along those lines, sort of, but really, it's really charming. Next Goal Wins in theaters now.
I'm not leaving the house.
This will come to one of the streamers eventually, I'm sure. It's absolutely lovely.
I write down all of your recommendations, and I wait for them to get to the streamers, and then I watch them.
Sure. If you're patient enough, eventually that happens.
I will check that out in 6 months' time.
That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense. It's really terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm CJ Little.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, our favorite Overcast, or wherever you may get your podcasts from.
Podcastindex.org. Special thanks to our floor director, Ron Niv.
Ron Niv is the best floor director we've ever had.
And what a great person.
He doesn't even yell at me. Everybody else yells at me. Ron is just gives me that look, and I know I got to start talking.
Sure.
We'll be here every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us.
I am very good at recognizing unfair advantages. And I got unfair advantages in old age the way I got unfair advantages in non-old age. And when they came, I just grabbed them. Boom, boom, boom.